Scoodly doodly doo, it's time for another Welch review. Scoodly doodly doo doo.
Well, happy holidays here from the Welch Review.
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
We hope Santa, Belschnickel, Krampus,
All them people.
yeah, up north brought you something cool. To kick things off today, we are talking about the last X-Men movie to be made by 20th Century Fox, which is the New Mutants. And it got released on, I want to say, it got released on Disney Plus, but it didn't go in theaters, and it came out on DVD, which is how we saw it.
This is a bad time, but we'll get to that.
So in this film, right, you have another Game of Thrones alum. You have Maisie Williams playing Rain Sinclair. You have Anna Taylor-Joy as Ileana Rasputin. Charlie Heaton of Stranger Things fame as Sam Guthrie. Alice Braga as Dr. Reyes. Blue Hunt as Danny Moonstar. Henry Zaga as Roberto Di Costa. Adam Beach as Danny's dad. Marilyn Manson as the Smiling Man.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That's his name?
The bad guys.
Oh, Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson, yeah, dude. That's the guy who took two of his ribs out. So
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. Thomas Key as Sam's father. Colby Gannett as young Ilana. Happy Anderson as Reverend Craig. And this was written by Josh Boone and Nate Lee. Josh Boone is directing the current CBS program The Stand, and he also directed The Fault in Our Stars. And The New Mutants, is also directed by Josh Boone.
Alright, so with that all out of the way, the main plot of the story is basically you have like a psych ward for kids who have powers that are realizing and they don't know how to control them, and maybe they've hurt or killed some people. So our main character, Danny, her Native American reserve, is getting mauled by some kind of giant ghost bear. She doesn't really know what's happening. She's running. Boom. She wakes up. All of a sudden, she is in the psych ward where she meets her other weird X-Men friends. Or not X-Men, but mutant people.
Yeah, so, like, Charles Xavier is no longer recruiting people, right? There's no more a school for gifted youngsters. It's now like, hey, man, you done messed up. So you're locked down, baby cakes.
Yeah, like this might be like they're not actually being recruited by the X-Men or
the government.
anything with Charles Xavier. This is like a private organization that's trying to leverage them as weapons and trying to turn them into weapons rather than
which I think they had a good storyline here, right? Because like Marvel, right? Like at least the Marvel films have this way of like there are no consequences for heroes' actions. You know what I mean? Like I guess you could say like the Sokovia a thing, but like there's no problems here. So this is like, you know, what happens when someone with powers accidentally hurts, kills, destroys, you know, someone or something. So they're stuck here. Like Sam's saying, you know, they get tested on, right? And probably sold off to the highest bidder.
Yeah, I don't know if this is necessarily a repercussion to your actions. I think that it's just like, hey, you got noticed and now you're fucked. So, yeah. So anyway, she's here. All of her friends think that they're just, waiting to be like brought up to the X-Men, right? Like, after they're fixed, they can leave and like join the X-Men. Exciting times. And you have a whole array of different powered people. You got this one dude who's a very obvious Chad, who
Roberto, yeah.
Yeah, Roberto. He lights himself on fire and other things on fire. You got Maisie Williams, who is kind of a crappy werewolf.
She turned into a dog.
Yeah, it's a crappy werewolf. You have, obviously, our main character. Her power is basically that her dreams, or actually the nightmares of everybody around them, or their fears, come to life. And they can hurt you. So her power is actually extremely destructive.
So her power is just like, I can summon Freddy Krueger?
Yeah, exactly. Bitch! And he's just rolling around. But yeah, so basically her power is just sketch.
And then the most useless one, I think, was Charlie Heaton's Sam, where, like, he just, like, I don't really even know how to...
go fast.
Yeah, and then, like, he just...
Yeah, it's not really... Like, I'm pretty sure they're hinting at him being a speedster, but not just... Is he a speedster? He also kind of explodes whatever he touches when he runs.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he's good at the running, because, like, in his own storyline, he murders his father. Like, you know what I mean? It's like your power is that you run in directions. And it's very poorly handled. Like, it isn't displayed well. Especially because, like, it focuses on it in, like, real time, right? Like, when speedsters are done well and they're shown, like their powers are shown off well, typically you have, like, their vision, right? So, like, you can see, like, oh, they're moving so fast, everything around them is going slow. Well, this guy's just like...
Go on.
Yeah, like, oh, I ran through humans.
It's almost like they just ran out of ideas. Like, oh, how are we going to do this? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, like, a lot of the heroes in this have generic powers, like speedster, fire person.
Yeah.
Turns in... Like, werewolf is the oldest superpower, literally, like, in the books ever. I mean, maybe not the oldest, but, you know,
it's
like...
it's something that's been around since at least Lon Chaney was the Wolfman.
Yeah, and even before that, French people... had myths about wolfmen. You know what I mean? Like, it's not creative. The coolest one... Alana, yeah. She can, like, teleport and do magic, and she has a puppet that turns into a fucking dragon.
And she has a lightsaber arm.
Yeah, and she has an arm that just randomly gets armor and a giant sword. So, like, Alana's swole and cool and scary and kind of psychotic. And she is a character... Well, I guess her character is not amazing, but her character design and her abilities are really cool, and that's obviously because, you know, she's pulled from other comics. And, like, you know, our main character, Danny, like, her power is still cool. Like, I think that it's fun, and I think that you could do a lot with it. But how they utilize it is, like, a driving plot mechanic, right? The story stops being about these kids, like... figuring out that they're being used, right? At first, that's like the big plot point. Like, oh, they're figuring out that they're being used. But eventually, that all just gets swept under the rug, and it becomes all about them surviving Danny's power and getting her not even to learn how to control it, but to wake up so it doesn't murder all of them. So, like, the movie doesn't actually ever solve... anything. It's very circular, and this same issue can very easily happen again literally the next day.
Yeah, all it takes is for her to have another nightmare.
Exactly.
Like, they had a really cool premise, like a superhero horror movie. I know that's what it was like billed as, like, cool, but it was just like really a lame, like, oh, let's Freddy Krueger this in like the cheapest way possible. And I mean cheap not in scale of scope, but like in story. Because like Sam's saying, you know, they start with one thing and then it just never gets solved because they're like, oh, this is a more interesting problem, which in reality it's not. Like, I understand the idea of overcoming your demons and that kind of thing, which is literally what this whole thing is about, right? Because like they focus on that quote, like, there are two bears in you. Right?
Yeah.
Which one you feed.
Yeah, her dad has, like, some bear quote that they, like, roll with the entire film. Her dad dies, by the way, Ghost Bears. It's not a spoiler, it happens in the first 5 seconds.
You know what's crazy, though? It's like SpongeBob, they had the sea bear circle. Like, no one tried that. Like, obviously it's different because it's a ghost bear.
Should have been the go-to.
Like, what if they had salt circles?
Yep.
Like, we've seen SpongeBob. Like, that could have been a fun...
Well, the ghost could go into churches, so...
Well, yeah, okay, you got me there.
But, yeah, I don't know. There was a lot wrong with this film. It had a lot of potential to be really good. I don't think that any of the characters are executed particularly well. What they do well is, like, I wouldn't even say well, but they do it better than everything else they do, is semi-believable relationships between some of the characters. And I would not say all of the cast, but, like, Maisie Williams has a semi-believable relationship
with Danny Moonstar.
With Danny Moonstar. And I only say semi because like they've known each other for like all of 4 minutes, and now they're like, oh, I will give my life to save you.
Well, it's like a high school relationship or college, right?
Yeah.
Where you meet and it's like, oh, we're spending all our time, but you're also in close proximity.
Yeah.
I would say Ileana is the other character who seems like, the actress took it seriously and was like, I'm going to have this fleshed out. She was definitely a big standout. Alice Braga as Dr. Reyes, I thought she did pretty solid. Again, I think they were handed material that they didn't execute the best with, which is unfortunate because X-Men is really, Blade, but X-Men's what really started this whole tentpole of, like, hero movies, especially Marvel hero movies. And it seems like,
besides Blade,
once Disney acquired, Fox, they were just like, okay, let's just hurry up and get this over with. It doesn't matter how it turns out. We're going to reboot them anyway down the line.
Yeah, and that's not to say that all the X-Men are good, because a lot of them are really bad, but those were also, like, the first hero films for Marvel, right? Like, before that, like, all that you had was, like, Batman and Superman. That's it. Mm-hmm. And Blade.
Yeah, but what's crazy is Blade was owned by New Line Cinemas. This is, Fox.
Yeah, so Marvel was never actually producing them. Mm. But, yeah, okay. So with all that out of the way, I guess it's just like a big missed opportunity to do something really cool, something really gritty. Like, had they gone down a route where it was all about fighting back against this corporation that's trying to turn them into killers, right? Yeah. That could have been really awesome. Like, that could have been really, really good, but instead they pivot off of that plot point and they do this whole big circle to a conclusion that's not really a conclusion. It's like, it's an ongoing issue.
You know what they do? They Jean Grey it. You know what I mean? Because there's an overarching problem, right? Like, like the Brotherhood of Evil, right? Or the government, that kind of thing. But then they Jean Grey it. They're like, she's our enemy. And then they make it an internal thing. And it's like, you don't solve the bigger problem. Like, it's the same problem with Dark Phoenix, right? Like, they're like, aliens are invading. And then it's like, okay, well, and we also got this Jean Grey problem. And it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, the world doesn't need another Jean Grey problem. If you're gonna go the Dark Phoenix, you have one Dark Phoenix. Solve that. Don't rehash it with teenagers. Or at least make it so, like, they are more in sync with each other. Like, maybe the corporation knew about the problem there, and they're like, okay, we're going to weaponize this. And then make them fight the corporation, not, like, infighting.
Yeah. Yeah, because realistically, not only that, but kind of actually in the same way as Phoenix Force, right? They throw them up against a bad guy that they can't beat. Like, they it's physically impossible for them to defeat. And then the rest of it's just hammy, like, trying to get through to you. Like, deep conversations with Danny, and then it's like, it's just bad. And it's very obviously because the director was from The Fault in Your Stars. Like, he is not equipped to make a horror film. His experience is with sad, sappy things.
Yeah.
And, nothing against The Fault in Your Stars. I enjoyed that film. I think that it was good at what it did, but this is supposed to be a superhero horror story.
Yeah.
Not a teenage romance. So
can we just agree on what, like, the Spirit Bear or the Ghost Bear, whatever, the Demon Bear, like, that design was pretty cool.
Ghost Bear was okay. I think that the cool design was Ileana and her
dragon.
Her dragon that was a puppet, and then all of a sudden was an actual dragon. You're like, oh damn, she likes that puppet for a good reason.
Yeah, maybe they should just do a movie about her.
I think so, but keep the same actress.
Perhaps check it out. It's in the pandemic stream. Maybe watch it. Something to pass the time, or don't.
Don't watch it.
All right, this has been the Welch Review, and we will see you next time.